So you made the jump and you decided to download FL Studio, but you open up the damn program and you got no idea what you're looking at. Thankfully, after this video, you're gonna know exactly how to make beats, especially in the trap version and underground genre and version of things. After this, you're gonna have no problems. You're gonna learn. It's gonna be a breeze to make beats going forward. I know it's very daunting, especially in a new program, to see, learn, and visualize, what you're gonna do. But like I said, after this tutorial, you are going to have no problems and you are going to be happy that you went ahead and you purchased FL Studio today. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. But if you haven't already, please leave a like, hit the sub button, and leave a comment down below. Let us know what you want to see next. Without further ado, let's start cooking some beats together. Open FL Studio, and this is what you see, a blank canvas. Basically, what you're going to want to do starting out is you're going to want to get yourself some drum kits, loop kits, all that kind of stuff. These are all tools that are going to help you make better beats going forward, especially with loop kits, MIDI kits, all that kind of stuff. It's going to really help you learn quickly how things are made. One of the best ways for me to learn how to make melodies was to actually take a loop kit or a MIDI kit and just recreate the MIDI. I would just take a screenshot of it, put it on my second monitor, and then just literally note by note remake it so that I understood, okay, this is actually how it works. There's something about, recreating things and doing things myself that helps it click in my brain a little more. As a creative, I feel like we all are kind of in a similar boat when it comes to that. MIDI kits, drum kits, yada, 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 all that kind of stuff are just tools that are going to help you make better beats. And not to plug or anything, but we do have our own website, Kyber Kits. We have a ton of kits on here. All of these kits are hella solid. They're going to give you a really, really good starting point, and they're all very affordable. We have a ton of offers as well too, limited offers where you get 3 kits for the price of 1, and you can also get 15% off of your first kit for the first day that you visit. Make sure you go check that out. We've got so much. There's just an array of things that you could go and get that are going to help you out a ton, so definitely go check out that. Let's start in the melody. All right, so you came in, you got your kits. All right, let's say you got your kits. The first thing you're going to want to do to actually add your kits, you're going to want to create a place on your computer where you store all of your kits, okay? And you're going to want to remember where that is. You're going to want to go to Options, General Settings, File, okay? So right here, you're going to want to add that location where you're holding your file. So I think if you actually go to the folder or file and you bring it here and you actually drag it here, it will locate it on here. It will save it there, and then it should pop up on this side right here, okay? You've got everything prepped, you've got your kits, okay? So now let's go ahead and make a melody. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to my Dreams New Jazz kit, because there's some solid sounds in there. I'm just going to grab a piano for the sake of this tutorial. So what you're going to want to do for one-shots is one-shots can just be dragged into this channel rack, okay? So this channel rack is going to be how you build out your beat, basically, all right? And how you can go about bringing that up is this little guy right here. If you see right in the top corner right here, it'll say channel rack. This is where everything, your whole beat is going to kind of be laid out, and you'll see that over time. All right, so we dragged in the Mark 1. You're going to want to right click on here and go piano roll. So this is going to bring up your piano roll. This is where you're going to put in all the notes, to make your melodies, okay? First thing you want to do is you want to go up here, go to view, and you're going to want to go to scale highlighting, okay? So this is going to make it so that you have the ghost notes in the back so that you know what notes are going to be in key and what notes are not going to be in key. So for instance, we're going to do C sharp and we're going to do natural Aeolian. This is the most common minor natural, the most common scale to be in, so definitely a good starting place. So now that you got that up, we have our scale highlighting. What I'm going to do is this one shot sounded a little quiet. So if you left click right here, this is your waveform of the piano, the one shot that I'm using, okay? And by the way, basically what a one shot is it's just like a little snippet of a sound. So as you can tell, it's literally just a one shot. It's a singular note of a instrument. So for an example, this could be in one shot. That's it. Basically what that does is when you pull it into FL Studio, you can create notes and stuff with that one shot, and then basically it'll create chord progressions. It'll put those sounds together so that it creates a chord progression. It'll scale it up and down based on the note that you place it into the piano roll. Okay, so back to what I was doing. So this one shot is very quiet. Okay, so what you can do is, there's two things you can do actually. So what you can do is you can go normalize, which is just going to crank it. Most times this is all you really got to do. So as you can tell, that's a lot louder. That's a little loud for me. So what I'm going to do is if you go right here and you can actually just boost it with this knob here. Sounds good to me, so we'll leave it right there. Now you have your one shot ready to go. So what you're going to want to do, obviously you have not made a melody before, okay? So let's give you some solid training wheels to start on. So if you go right here, this stamp tool, and let's just do a minor 9. So a minor 9 is a chord progression, and it's just a stack of notes that create a minor 9 chord progression. I'll drag it in, and now I have it at the C sharp, so it's in key technically with our scale highlighting. Okay, so now if we press play, you can tell it is very muddy, it's very bassy, it doesn't sound good at all, right? So if you do Alt and then drag over like this, you're going to want to press Alt again and on your keypad up button, and this is going to put it up 1 octave. With this 1 octave here, you can press play again. You can tell that sounds way better already, all right? So now that we have it in a good octave, the next thing you're going to want to do if you're using this stamp is you're going to want to highlight it again, and then you're going to want to press Alt-G, and that's going to allow you to actually play around with these notes. If not, you're not going to be able to do that, and it's just going to drag the entire chord progression around, and you won't be able to actually play around with the notes. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the next chord in the chord progression. So a really easy way of creating a solid chord, just dragging it over, okay, like I did. And how you do that is you just highlight it with Alt, just like we did before, and then you hold Shift, and then you just drag it over like that, go, and then you have a copy of your chord progression. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight it again. This time I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to use the arrow buttons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here is what that sounds like. So it sounds pretty good. So this is a very easy way of making a simple chord progression. Works pretty much every single one of the times that you do it, but this is just a starting point, and you can kind of start mixing it up as you go, which I'll show you in a minute. What I'm going to do from here is I'm actually just going to kind of play around with these notes and kind of move them around and make them sound good, just kind of build out a chord progression. This is where the creativity comes in, so you kind of want to just do your own thing and see what you come up with, honestly. There's not really a whole lot of rules when it comes to beat making. It's just all about, you know, what sounds good to you and just going from there, basically. All right, so I feel like I kind of came up with something decent. All right, basically what I did was I just played around with the notes. I made it so that it wasn't sounding so muddy. By that I mean that I brought some of the notes up an octave to make them sound a little more vibrant and not so dark and deep. Also just kind of played around with the notes within the scale that we've already highlighted to create a better progression. All right, very simple. Basically, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to our one shot here. And this is really only something you have to worry about with one shots when you're using an actual VST. By the way, how to get to a VST, you click the plus button right here and you'll see all your VSTs right here. If you've downloaded VSTs and you don't see them on your computer, what you're going to want to do is go here, more plugins, manage plugins right here, click find installed plugins, and then everything will show up, and then you just have to add a little star to it, and then then it'll show up in your little inventory here. What I'm going to do here is I can tell that the notes are kind of bleeding into themselves. I'm going to try this cut. So what this does here, so if you go here to the little toolbar and cut cell, basically what it's going to do is once the note ends, it's going to actually end and it won't keep bleeding. This might kind of ruin it, but I'm just going to see what it sounds like. Okay, that sounds a lot better, I think. It's not bleeding nearly as much. It's actually not really bleeding at all. So that sounds good. And basically why I did that is because what will happen is these root notes, the lower notes, are going to start clashing, and it's going to kind of sound a little weird because they're kind of mixing and clashing together. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to highlight this. Alt B is going to copy it over, and I'm going to have a second instance of this over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with this, make it a little different, and then we'll go from there. All right, so just did something super simple. All I did was I just chopped this note in half. So I just dragged it here, made another one, clicked it in, and just dragged it up, and then just kind of change this end part. For the most part, that's really all you have to do when you're changing up melodies, is just small little tweaks, and then adding some layers and all that kind of stuff. What I could do right now is I could add some more, little small pieces to the melody, to the chord progression, because really all we have is a chord progression right now. We could add a counter melody, but I'm going to leave it right now, and we're just going to kind of move on to the next part. All right, so next I'm going to show you how to start layering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a VST for this, Electra X. This is one of my favorite VSTs, super solid. I do have a few banks here, which I'm going to be using right now. So I'm going to go to my Elixir bank. So I want to add an ARP to this. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click right here on my channel rack. I'm going to press Alt C, and then I'm going to click here, and I'm going to press Alt V. And I'm going to copy and paste it into my new Electra X instance. Okay, so now I've got an ARP clicked here. I'm going to press space to play it. Like already, that just sounds fire, right? Like that's sick. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to keep that because I like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this, clone. We're going to get another instance of Electra X. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to copy and paste that there. And we're just going to grab another ARP. You might be thinking, man, this is crazy. Like, this seems like way too easy. I promise you, like, a lot of beats are this easy, and this method is like used all the time. Okay, so another really cool thing that you can do as well too is if you are like, okay, this is kind of sounding a little meh. So for an example, we're in our second instance of Electra X. What I'm going to do is I'm going to Alt A, hold Alt, press up on the arrow while holding Alt, sorry, and that's going to bring it up one octave like we showed before, and that's going to change the pitch of the ARP that I'm using, so it's going to make it sound a little different. That's sometimes like a super easy way to just like make it sound a little different. I'm not really sold on it, to be honest, so I'm just going to kind of keep going through and just see if I find something else. Alright, so that sounds really good. So basically all I did was I just changed how fast the ARP was actually playing within Electra X, so it made it sound a little different. It was playing at half speed. I just put it up to 1 BPM, so it just started playing faster. That being said, another thing that I wanted to mention as well too is if you wanted to change the BPM of your beat, this should have been one of the first things I mentioned. This guy right here, here's what's going to change your BPM. We don't want to be at 520, so I'm just going to drag that down. sound. Most of the time, if you're doing like trap beats, you're gonna be between probably 120 and like 160, I want to say. That's kind of the most common BPM, I would say. It just depends on what kind of beats you're trying to make. I'm probably going to keep it at 140 for now, but we'll see as we go. I might change it up. That's kind of the best part about making beats as well too, is like you don't necessarily have to like keep it as is like throughout the entire thing. Like there's been a lot of times where I've like stayed with the same thing for X amount of time, you know, making the beat, and I could be an hour in and I could change the key, change the BPM, you know, change out things, and it could end up being a completely different beat. So don't like lock yourself into just using one once you're locked on like a certain style of beat, or you know the sounds that you're using. Like you have to use that. Like switch it out, be creative, you know, experiment. That's how you make better beats, and that's how you become a better producer. So it's a little tip for you. So let's just play this melody and let's see how we're doing so far. All right, so that sounds pretty good. I'm chill with that for now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually start working on the drums now. This is what I like to do. I like to get the core melody down and then add drums and then add melodies afterwards. I just find that once I get like a drum pattern going, I can kind of start filling in the gaps with counter melodies and stuff like that. That's just personally how I do it, but again, it's totally up to you. I like to add the 808s in next, so we're gonna go to our 808s here. Okay, let's try this. Okay, so once you have your 808, super easy way to build out your 808s. Go to your main chord progression, Alt-C, copy like we did before, and then Alt-V, paste like we did before. Okay, so now you're going to have your chord progression right here, and all you're going to want to do is just go like this, delete everything except for the bottom-most notes, okay? And this is going to be the root notes, and this is what your 808s are almost always going to sound proper in. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to use it. I just always use this as a guideline and kind of go from there, but this is the easiest way to build out your 808s. Most times it's going to be in too low of an octave, so you can usually just highlight it, go up an octave is usually better. What I just did there was I selected everything, held Control, and then just scrolled up and down. That'll change the velocity, so basically how loud it is and how hard it hits. I always crank my 808s up to max. That's just, I don't know, I just like doing that, so I'm just gonna find a better 808 here. And sometimes your 808s are just going to sound a little wonky. And honestly, the best way of going about doing that is just transposing your beat. Sometimes the 808s just don't sound good in that key. Best way of doing that is just transposing the whole ass thing. So what I like to do is I just go here, and then if you just hold your mouse and drag all the way down, select all of the things that you got here, go to the arrow, transpose selected. We're going to go, let's try -1 first. And so this is going to bring everything down 1 semitone. So you can tell that it sounds a little different. I'm not super sold on that, so I'm going to try. All right, that sounds good to me. One thing I forgot to do is I just like having 8-bar patterns, so I'm just going to select all. Having 8-bar patterns is good as well too, because it allows you to have a little more variation. So, you know, let's say the first 4 bars was this, and then, you know, the second 4 bars, you know, I can add all these, and then it's a little different, right? But I'm going to leave it for now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add a second 808 here and fill in the gaps. Alright, so that sounds good so far. Let's say that you wanted to have a kick added in, alright? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy my 808 pattern and I'm going to paste it in the kick. Okay, and I'm going to select all. I'm going to hold control and I'm going to press K. What this is going to do is this is going to put them all on the same note, on the C note, which you should usually have all your drums on the C5 note, unless you're doing like rolls and like pitched notes of things, which I'll show later. But for the most part, you know, like your drums, aside from your 808, obviously, you want to just keep on the C scale. Now I have the kick, so now you'll hear it. So let's kind of add a little bit of juice here. Okay, so. Like that pattern, that sounds good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the claps. For the claps, what you're going to want to do is every middle line right here. So if you draw out a note, let's say you start here, you're going to want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just drag it so it's up against like that, and this will have you a perfect clap pattern. And that's the best way of doing your claps. So I'm actually just going to add a little bit of sauce to it. So just a little bit of sauce. You know, it's coming together now. It's coming together now. So now I'm going to add a hi-hat. And so basically what you can do to create a simple two-step hi-hat is you just go fill 2 steps just like this. And yeah, that's like basically like building out a beat, honestly, in its basic form, just like that. For a beginner, this is truly like the biggest piece that you want to be able to figure out on your own, and then you can kind of be creative and start adding counter melodies and doing all that kind of stuff on your own. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how to master it, mix and master, sorry, and then I'm going to show you how to lay it out on the playlist. What I like to do before I throw it into the mixer is I like to organize it a little bit. So I always have my claps first. I have my 808s last, so that would be these two here. I have my 808s, my kick, and then my hi-hats last. And then I'll always have my clap first and then everything in between. And then I'll always have my melodies first before the drums. That's just, I don't know, that's the OCD in me. Like I said, that's the OCD. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing like I did before when I transposed it. Alt L, and that's going to put everything into the master channel rack just like that. Super easy, guys. Okay. So now everything's going to be laid out for us right here, nice and simple. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to throw in my master preset because I use this on all my beats. This will make your beat sound 100 times better, I promise you. This is definitely a reason to go cop that Dreams plugin B New Jazz Mega Kit. What I like to do is I like to hold Alt, drag my mouse clicked all the way, drag everything down so everything is silent, and then I like to mix from the 808s over. Also, because we have a second 808, is I'm going to go here to this other 808 and I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to make sure that these are on 3 as well. So what that's going to do is when one of the 808s play, the other one cannot play over top of it. It'll cut it out right away. So now what I like to do is I like to go here. If you hold control and click here, it's going to mute everything else except for this one channel that you clicked on. And if you do it again, it'll unmute everything. Okay, so I like to do my melodies one by one. This piano is very dry. It's very basic. Let's add some juice to it, okay? First things first, let's add some delay. Obviously, for your effects and everything, this is going to be different for each one of them. So obviously you'll have an empty rack for each one. This is where your effects for each sound will be, okay? So this delay will only be on the piano. Instantly, oh, it sounds so much better, okay? RC20, this is a classic as well. Kind of gives it that little retro feel. And then last but not least, I'm just going to put an EQ. I'm going to put an EQ on it. For pianos and a lot of sounds in general, you're going to have a lot of low end frequencies. Okay, so this is something that you want to deal with, or else it's going to clash and it's going to make your mix very, very muddy. 1 is your low end, 7 is your high end, obviously 3, 4, 5 is your mid, your kind of mids. All right, so what I like to do is I like to go to presets here. We'll do 40 hertz. And something like that usually does a pretty solid job of chopping out the lows. What you want to do to start out is on every single one of your instances of a melody, you're going to want to pull up that EQ and just make sure that your low ends aren't, you know, going crazy. And if they are, just throw that 40 hertz chop on there, bring it over, take out those lows, and it's going to do a hell of a job on your mix. Okay. And then also, if you aren't using that preset, basically if you bring it down, that's going to do the chop, and then if you use another one, you can actually make it more sloped so that it'll do more of a cut. But I'm going to leave it kind of right here because this doesn't have a lot of low end, and I don't want to get rid of the low end because it gives a lot of vibrance. And that's another thing, is you want to be careful when you're cutting out the low ends because the low end brings a lot of emotion. Don't want to take a ton of it out, and it's kind of case by case per sound, so you just got to be careful with that. But in this instance, I'm just going to leave it kind of like that. So when you use halftime, it's going to pitch it down quite a bit, so I'm just going to pitch this up. There's also 808s that are longer than others, and if that's the case, you just kind of got to play around with the notes. And you can also play around with the envelope here. This will make the notes sustain longer, the release. All right, so I think that sounds pretty solid. I mean, like I said, it's a very basic beat, but you know, you get the point. That's all that matters. All right, so now we're gonna go to rearranging the track. Okay, what you're gonna want to do is go to here. This is gonna be your pattern. So this is the entire beat you just made, but we don't want to just play the entire beat for, you know, 2 minutes. So what you're gonna want to do is right click on here, and you're going to want to click split by channel. And now this is going to split it just like we had it here. You're going to actually be able to, you know, bring things in and out and unique and make it yours, you know? So if you click here, click on the first one, hold shift, and then click the last one, you select all, and then you can actually drag it out just like so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Alt, I'm going to select, just like with the piano roll, if you hold Alt B, it's going to paste it. All right, so I like to put it up to around 89, 97. So that's a pretty solid place to start. So I'm going to drag it all the way back. If you hold Alt and scroll up and down, it's going to zoom in and out of your playlist. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of build a little intro. And so if you hold Shift and then click, it's going to duplicate, and then you can bring it over. So when you're in the playlist, you can actually just drag one shots in. So I can just drag, you know, all of this stuff in, just like this, and then it'll play in the playlist. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to find a crash to kind of fade in, you know? So I like that. That's like a good way to fade in. So what I like to do is I like to let it ride out for 16 bars, and then I like to kind of bring out all the drums so that it kind of goes back to the basic melody. Maybe take out one of the parts of the melody. Beat, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to fade your beat out as well too, what you want to do is you want to come back to your mixer, click on the volume button on your master, which is this guy right here, and you're going to want to go to create automation clip, and then if you just right click right here, drag this down. Yeah, that's that. I think that's pretty much it, honestly. I think we covered pretty much everything. Not too bad. Yeah. Alright, so I hope you learned something in this video. It's been a while since I made one of these, so I was excited to do it for FL Studio 2024. Even though I feel like there's not a whole lot of new things for a beginner to learn, I think it's still a solid thing to put out, every year. Strategies and ways of going about making beats do change over time, so I think it's always nice to update it every single year. If you did learn something as a beginner, make sure you leave a like, make sure you leave a comment, hit the subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. If you are new here, leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see next. I want to hear from you guys. I'm trying to shift my focus on what you guys want to see most, so all your comments and your suggestions mean the world to me. Also, if you want to support the channel, hit the join button down below. It's $5 a month. Get exclusive FLPs for all of our tutorials, exclusive loops, and again, it just helps me as a creator as well too, so it is greatly appreciated. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching once again, and if you're here right now, you are a GOAT. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day. Love you all. Peace out.